everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing some autumn leaves nail art using the new Indian summer collection. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. If you haven't already checked out the Indian summer collection, then I highly recommend it. The previous video up on the channel is the swatch video and I will leave a link in the description box below to that video. And also there is a giveaway up on the Kiki London Instagram where you have a chance to win the collection. So I will also leave the Insta linked in the description box below as well. So do check that out. Now, as well as using the Indian summer collection, I'm also going to be using a vanilla latte, which was from the autumn 2022 collection, because I really wanted to have a light base on two of the nails in this design. So we're coming in and we're doing 2 coats of that vanilla latte, and this is a really gorgeous color for autumn. It's a really nice light shade base if you don't necessarily want to use a white or a nude. It's a beautiful creamy consistency, and as you can see, it's got full coverage in 2 coats. So I've done 2 coats of this, curing each coat for 30 seconds. And then on this first design, we are going to be adding a little bit of foil. So I'm going to come in and apply a thin coat of the foil gel to the entire nail. Now, I just also wanted to add in, if you was doing this on yourself or a client, you would also need to do your prep and base coat to begin with as well. So I will leave a prep video linked in the description box below as well. So there'll be lots of info in the description box. So whilst that's curing, I'm going to pick out my foils, and these are the classic metallic foils, and they're probably my go-to or most used foils out of the Kiki foils, and I really love this matte gold one. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to scrunch this up because I only want a really light touch of this foil. So by scrunching it up, it kind of shatters the effect that the foil gives off, and then I'm just lightly pressing it down into that cured foil gel for this shattered effect. Then we're going to come in with some of those new shades from the Indian summer collection. So I have Harvest Festival, Golden Hour and Dahlia, and I'm going to add all 3 of these to my Kiki London nail art palette. So we're just going to take a small amount. Now I do end up using all of the shades from the Indian summer collection, which I'm really glad so, because I absolutely love all of these colours. It's been really hard to pick a favourite. I've lent towards a Violet Dawn because that's one of my absolute favourite, purple sorry, is one of my absolute favourite shades, but I really love Harvest Festival and Dahlia in this collection as well. So taking my stripe liner brush and that Harvest Festival, we're going to start off by drawing on some shapes onto the nail. I wanted this to have a little bit of a layered abstract look. So we've got our foils underneath. Now this design was inspired by another one of the Kiki London promoters. Her name on Instagram is Little Nail Home, and she does some amazing designs, and she done one very similar to this recently, also using the Indian summer collection. So I wanted to give that a go. So I've painted on kind of like a rough wonky circle with Harvest Festival, flash cured that in the Kiki lamp for 10 seconds, and then I'm repeating that using Golden Hour, but I want it to slightly overlap the Harvest Festival. Now, you don't necessarily have to stress too much about creating perfect circles. A lot of the time with these abstract looks, the shapes that you want to be creating don't need to be perfect. So I find it very beginner friendly, especially if you're someone like myself and not very good or very confident at hand painting. So same again, we flash cured the Golden Hour, and then we're coming in with Dahlia. And then once I have got all 3 of those colours down, I'm going to pop these in for a full 30-second cure just to make sure everything has fully cured. And then I'm going to come over the top of this with the No White matte top coat because I want a matte surface to draw my leaf down the center on. I always find it a lot easier to hand paint over a matte surface, especially when you've layered up colors like we have underneath. So I've popped a thin coat of this over the top of that entire nail, cured that for 30 seconds, and then we're going to add in some of that earthy brown to the palette. Now, a lot of the time when I do these kind of designs, any kind of layered nail art or leafy designs, I tend to do the leaves in black or white depending on the look we're going for. But this time I wanted to keep everything from the tones that are in that Indian summer collection. So I'm going to draw it on in the earthy brown, and it does give everything a lot more of a softer look. So whether you like that or not, do let me know in the comments below. It's not something I've done before. Like I said, I usually do all this leafy part of the design with a black, and it pops that a little bit more, but I loved how soft and autumnal it looked by adding in the earthy brown. I'm really loving earthy brown. I find it's a really nice leafy brown shade, which works well with the time of year, of course. So as you can see, I've drawn a thin stem down going through those three colors we've added on, and then I'm just coming on and adding on the leaves. Now I started adding these on quite small, kind of just mapping them out so that I knew how many I could fit on the nail and things like that. I do then come in and make them a little bit bigger, but I do actually feel as though these kind of designs suit shorter nails a little bit more, where everything on the nail is a little bit smaller. Where I was working on larger display tips, I kind of blew it up so that it would fit the nail, but I definitely prefer how these look on a more short to medium length nail. But here I'm just coming in and perfecting those leaves. Oh, sorry, I'm just finishing off the bottom leaves, and then I'll come in and start perfecting things, making things a little bit bigger so it flows a bit more cohesively in the design. And then when I'm coming over and doing this as well, where I worked quite thin with that coat of gel polish that I first mapped it out with, this is where I'll come over and make sure that I'm getting the full opacity. I did only do this in one coat because I didn't feel as though it needed a second coat. The colours are quite highly pigmented, but I did only pop down a very thin coat, so I'm just making sure that there's no gaps in the leaves and making sure that there is full coverage even though it is only one coat. And then also I'm bringing out the flicks on the edges of the leaves here as well, just to give it a little bit more of a crisper look. And this is why I like doing this step over a matte surface, because I find sometimes if you do it over a glossy surface, or if you do it over your last layer of gel polish where you've got your inhibition layer, you can't always get that sharp crisp look. So if you are struggling with that, I would highly recommend doing your hand painting over the matte top coat. Now this is what our design is looking like, and I decided I wanted to have a completely matte set of nails for today. So we're going to come in and seal this all in again using that no white matte top coat, and then that is this design finished once we have popped it in secure. Now if you are like myself and struggle with hand painting, you could also stamp this step, but then you wouldn't necessarily be able to use earthy brown unless you stamped it and then went over the top with your earthy brown, which is something I've done before, which is kind of cheating, but it's brilliant if you struggle with hand painting. On to the second design, we have already got our vanilla latte base, and we're going to come in and do a thin coat of the Kiki London blooming gel, and we're going to be doing a very similar leafy design, but we're going to be doing it in the blooming gel, which kind of creates this really soft watercolor effect. So on these two nails I'm going to add in Mellow Rose and Violet Dawn. So that's the last two colors in the Indian summer collection. Now this one I do think is my favorite. I love a purple lilac, but it's been so hard to pick a favorite out of this collection because I just love autumnal colors, and this collection just ticks all the boxes for me. Now for this design I'm going to switch from my strap liner brush to the detail brush. I'm going to load it up with a generous amount of Violet Dawn, really working it through the bristles, and then I'm kind of going to just like press it down into a leaf shape and do it either side. We're not doing the stem, we're just doing the leaves. So I'm just simply pressing down to begin with, and then I'm going to let it bloom. So whilst that's blooming, I'm going to clean up my brush and switch to doing the same but with Mellow Rose up the other end of the nail. Now on this one, what I did is I cleaned up my brush and then I pulled out those leaves a little bit more. So what we're going to do here is, whilst it's still blooming, just using the very tip of the clean detail brush, just pull out the leaves a little bit more. But because I took a little bit of time doing this, the Violet Dawn had bloomed a little bit more than what I wanted it to. So I come in with a little bit more, just added it in so we get those pops of colour back in the centre of the bloomed area. And then I'm going to do the same and pull the edges out to get the little flicks for the leaves. But I really love the watercolor effect that it gives off where it started to bloom. So I'm going to get that in to cure because I'm happy with how it looks and I don't want it to bloom too much. And I just thought it looked really soft and really pretty. You could add in some leaves with greens if you wanted, or some more orange and yellow tones. Like you could use Harvest Festival and the Golden Hour to create some more autumn leaves amongst these two. But I kind of decided to keep this one with the purple and the pink, but I do just add in a little bit of earthy brown for the stems. And again, this is where I normally would use a black just out of habit, but I really loved how it looked with the earthy brown. It gave everything a much more softer look and a lot more of a natural look as well. So this is what the design looks like. We're just going to finish off once again with the No White Matte top coat. Now you do want to keep your top coat nice and thin. You don't need to add a too thick layer, but you just want to make sure that you are covering the entire design. Now the matte top coat does go on glossy, and then once it is cured, you are left with a really nice velvety satin matte finish. I absolutely love this matte top coat, and I do find as well matte top coat helps blur any imperfections in both your hand painted nail art and your ombres as well. On to the third now, we are going to start off with doing a base of Golden Hour. So we're going to do 2 coats of this. Now, isn't this just the perfect autumn yellow? Like it's still nice and bright, that it's got, you know, you want a nice bright yellow, but it has this kind of like an ever so slightly hint of a brownish undertone to it that kind of just mellows it down a little bit for autumn. I really love it. I think you could create some really beautiful leafy designs with this one and Harvest Festival. I think it would look beautiful in a marble as well with Harvest Festival and earthy brown, maybe even a hint of dahlia as well. But anyway, on this now we are going to be doing some foil art. So I need a matte surface because I only want my foils to go in certain areas on the nail. So by applying a matte top coat, you kind of eliminate how much foil you're going to get spreading around the nail. So this is also what Golden Hour looks like matte. Again, absolutely gorgeous. I love a matte finish, and I think all of these colors actually look gorgeous matte. If you would like to see them all matte, then do head on over to the Kiki London Instagram page, as often there are posts up there showing what the sets will look like, what the colors will look like both matte and glossy, and you'll be able to see everyone's work using the colors as well. So starting off on this design, we are going to be doing these leaves with foils, but I want to paint them on with my color coat first of all, just so I can create the shape. It's going to be a lot easier to create the shape with earthy brown of the leaves rather than with our foil gel. So I'm coming in back with that striped liner brush and just creating some easy leafy shapes coming down the nail. I kind of wanted to make them look like they was blowing around. Then what we're going to do is we are going to cure this for a full 30 seconds. So we're just completely finishing this step. But then over the top of these leaves, we are going to come in with our foil gel. Now, if you are confident painting with the foil gel, you could skip doing the leaves in the earthy brown and paint them straight on with the foil gel. Personally, I find that a little bit tricky because the foil gel is clear. I find it hard to get a crisp shape, if that makes sense. So I always prefer to do it in whatever color is going to match my foil first of all. So I come in, we've done the earthy brown, and then I'm simply coming right over the top with that foil gel, and it just makes it a little bit easier to get a nice neat shape. If you do make any mistakes when you're applying your foil gel, so say you come over the sides of where your earthy brown is, you can wipe this off with a little bit of alcohol. And then once you are happy with your foil gel application, you're going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to use that same piece of scrunched up gold piece of foil, just because there's loads of it left, so let's not let it go to waste. And we're going to press this down. Now it is still going to sort of rub onto some areas, but it's not going to stay there. So it's going to stay where our foil gel is, but along where it is overlapped on to the Golden Hour, you're going to easily be able to wipe that off with a little bit of alcohol. And then I like to just come in and repress whilst that alcohol is still wet, then you won't get any of it at all pressing on to the golden hour, and then I was just cleaning up a little bit. So now you can see our leaves have this really pretty gold embossed look. I really love this look. If you're not confident using foils, you could also do this step with chrome as well, but personally I find foils a lot less messy than chrome and actually a little bit easier to use. Then we're going to come back in with earthy brown and outline those leaves just to help make them pop a little bit, because we are going to be doing this nail design completely matte. So I wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of outline to the leaves. And again, the earthy brown just keeps everything nice and soft, nice and mellow, looks nice and cozy. And I really loved how it looked over the golden hour. All of the colours in this collection are very highly pigmented. So although if you're doing a full nail with them, it's highly recommended that you do it in 2 thin coats. If you are using them for nail art like we are here, you can see that they are pigmented enough that you only need 1 coat. So I'm simply going to come around and outline all the leaves, and then I do come in and add some little details into the center. But before we do that, I just clean up some of the edges using my angled nail art brush and a little bit of alcohol just to perfect the shape basically, and just to make them look a little bit more crisper. I didn't want it to look too rounded off on the edge. And you'll also see that when I am hand painting with my stripe liner brush, I really like to roll it through the gel polish just to make sure that it's evenly distributed through the bristles and you haven't just got a layer of the gel polish sitting on the outer bristles of the brush. And then lastly on this nail, we're going to come in again and matte top coat. Another thing that I wish I'd done with this nail design after I top coated it, and I wish I'd left the base matte but done the leaves glossy. So just come over the top of the leaves with a glossy top coat, because I really love that look as well, and it gives like another layer of dimension to the nail. But like I said, for this set I decided to stick with all matte because I hadn't yet tried these colours with a matte finish, and I'd seen them on Instagram and I'd really wanted to give it a go. Now on to the third and final design, we're going to do a 3-colour ombre using Violet Dawn, Mellow Rose and Harvest Festival. Now this was my first ombre at all using the new collection, and it's always a little bit daunting doing an ombre of new colours, even though I absolutely love doing ombres. They are one of the designs that I find the most easiest. I know there's lots of people that are going to disagree with me, but I do find the ombres really easy to do, especially if you're using the Kiki London ombre brush. But obviously when you're working with new colours, sometimes it can be a little bit daunting, and I was pleasantly surprised that all 3 of these colours blended absolutely beautifully. I knew that Violet Dawn and Mellow Rose would ombre nicely because they're quite similar with their undertones, but Harvest Festival was a big difference to the Mellow Rose and it blended beautifully. So with a 3-colour ombre, you're going to treat it exactly the same as your 2-colour ombre. So just blend out that harsh line where the 2 colours meet. Whenever you see my brush going out of shot, that's just where I'm cleaning off on an alcohol wipe. But all I'm basically doing on this first coat is I'm not stressing too much about creating a perfect blend. I'm just blending the colours together. We can perfect the blend on the second coat. I do always leave the gel polish to settle for a few seconds though before curing, just to minimise those brush strokes. So then we're going to come in again and apply our second coat. So we're applying it exactly the same as before, coming in first of all with Violet Dawn and then Mellow Rose. I like to touch it up to the previous colour, so I do try to check my brush to make sure I haven't contaminated it before I pop it back in my bottle. And then lastly we've got that gorgeous Harvest Festival on the tip of the nail. So I'm taking my clean ombre brush, I'm going to blend that line where those 2 colours meet and then start taking the colours into each other. So this one here, I didn't really need to take too much of the Mellow Rose into the Violet Dawn because they kind of just blended effortlessly, but I did bring that transitional colour down into the Mellow Rose a little bit more. But like I said, these 2 colours, I don't know if it's the creamy consistency or the similar undertones, but they were just a breeze to blend. Then on to the Mellow Rose and the Harvest Festival. I wanted to have this nice sunset look to this now, so that was why I added the Harvest Festival in, and I'm so glad it did because it just worked beautifully for a sunsetty vibe. But as you can see, I'm blending that harsh line out. check in all the sides of the nail as well, because this is the area that I usually miss. And then I'm just having a bit of a closer look and I see that I'm not 100% happy with this blend. So what I end up doing is taking a little bit of Mellow Rose on my ombre brush and adding it in, just because I was losing a little bit of that pink. It had been taken over a little bit too much by the transitional shade between the Mellow Rose and the Violet Dawn. So adding a little bit more of that in fixed that, and then also helped perfect the blend with the Harvest Festival. And all we're doing is nice light strokes backwards and forwards, keeping it nice and gentle so we don't disrupt the gel polish too much. And once you blend, you end up being happy. Then once you are happy with that, you want to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. And then I did do a layer of matte top coat, just again, like I said before, so that I've got a nice matte surface to hand paint on, because it is a little bit easier. And then I wanted to go for that silhouette vibe, which again, I would normally do this in black, but it was really different doing it with the earthy brown, and I loved how it looked. So on this now, I wanted to do some different leaf shapes compared to what we had done before. So if I'm looking for inspiration with this, I'll kind of just head to Pinterest, either type in leaves or nail art leaves. Sometimes it helps to look at pictures that are not nails to get some ideas of shapes and that for your leaves. So that was what I ended up doing, just looking at a mix of different leaves and then just going with the flow and painting those on. Now, if you're not confident with hand painting, you can do 10-second flash cures. This is going to just freeze the gel polish in place. If you make any mistakes, you can wipe that mistake off without having to wipe off the entire design. But we're just doing these long floaty leaves and we're keeping it nice and simple. And then I'm just going to come in along the bottom and add in kind of like some little grassy vibes, grassy look down the bottom, just to kind of fill in the area. I don't want to cover up all of that Harvest Festival, but I loved how you could see the ombre underneath. Then I did also decide to add a little bit of vanilla latte to my palette, cleaned off my brush on one of those alcohol wipes, and we're just going to add two little birds, because it was meant to be a sunset sky, so I wanted some little birds floating off in the distance. And I just did this the really simple little squiggle way, nothing too hard. And then we're going to pop that in to cure for a full 30 seconds. And then lastly, we're going to finish this with a layer of no wipe matte top coat as well. So this was a fairly easy hand painted design. If you are good at hand painting, you'll be able to perfect this a lot better than me, but it's practice when it comes to hand painting. It's something I definitely need a lot more practice with. Let me know though in the comments below what kind of designs you would like to see with this collection, whether it be more hand painting or whether you would like to see different things with it. I'm going to try and get a set of nails done on myself using this collection as well. But if you do have any suggestions, please do pop them in the comments below. And if you haven't already checked out the collection, then do head on over to the Kiki London website and take a look. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment below, and hit that subscription button if you haven't already. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.